What is an event? An event is when something happens. There's all sorts of wonderful things that happen that really give us our interactivity. For instance, when we click on a button or when we use the mouse to click, when something loads, and when something's ready, when we press a key down. So all these are events. Let's go in and take a look at some. Well, all this code here is in an event. And if we scroll up, we've made a new frame object here. And then we say frame.onReady. So there's a ready event. When the stage is made and we're ready to code, we call this function right here. Here's a function literal that goes as a second parameter. It goes all the way down to here. It ends there. And then we close the end of the ready event. So we use the on method, which is given to us by CreateJS. We use the on method to find out if an event happens. The on method is pretty well like an add. In traditional JavaScript, you've got an add event listener. The on method has a couple tricks up its sleeve, which is nice. But otherwise, it's very similar to the add event listener. Indeed, we can use an add event listener there if we want, but an on is shorter. So let's make an object and apply an event to it, a different type. So var circle is equal to a new sim.circle. I'll just keep a basic circle there, and then we'll say circle.center on stage. And let's take a look at that. Here we go. And now let's capture an event. Circle.on. This time we'll capture a click event. So when we click on the circle, we will call the function vanish. Oh, vanish. And here we make the function. So this is done. We've done the same thing that we did before. We have the object with the on method, two parameters. One is what the event is, click, and the next is the function. Up here we had the object, the on method, the event was a ready event, and then our function was a function literal. And we could do that again here if we wanted, and we quite often do, but I wanted to show you that we can just say that is the function we're going to call. Note that we do not call it. Okay, that would call it right away and it would assign the results of the function to that position, but we don't call it. Okay, so down below here we declare it, function vanish, and define it indeed. There it is. And what should we do to make this circle vanish? How about stage.remove child circle, semicolon, and stage.update. Just watch out. This all happens after this stage.update. So this happens later on when we've clicked it, and so we need to update the stage to see those changes. Okay, save that, and let's try her. We refresh, I click, whoa, vanish. Wonderful. Now what we might want to do as well is say circle.cursor to tell people that we can do this is equal to a pointer. That's any CSS cursor property, and there it is, a pointer now, and saying, oh yeah, I can click on that, and poof, it's gone. Nice, huh? Now there's a couple other things we can do too. We can make it vanish, that's fine, but we can also say circle.on mouse over, comma, and here we'll do a function literal. And we can say circle.color equals red. Stage.update. Copy, paste. And now, as we mouse over the circle, oh, it turns red. Great. How about a mouse out? Yeah, should we put a mouse out on that? So we'll just copy that. Put a mouse out there. Mouse out. We save that. We want it to go to black. Black. So now when we mouse out, it will go to black. Refresh. Ooh, Ooh, and we've got a button underway. So very similar to a button. A button adds a label or an icon and has a bunch of other features too, but would be a basic button. Okay, so we've seen a few. We've seen click, mouse over, mouse out. Let's see what other types of events we have. We go to the docs and Zim. Pizzazz. Docs. And type in circle. So these are events for a circle. We scroll down past the methods and properties. We have the events. See the Create.js easel docs for container events such as added. That's when it gets added to the stage, that event triggers. Click, we've seen that one. When it clicks, double click. Mouse down is when you press your mouse down on it. Mouse out, we've seen. Mouse over, we've seen. Press move. As we press and then move, it will trigger that event constantly. So that happens a lot. And we can do things like, that's how a drag works, for instance. A Zim drag has a press move inside it. When we press up, that's when we're finished pressing. That's like a mouse up. Note there is no mouse up. There's a mouse down, but we have a press up. Also, the click acts like a mouse up. We can click and hold, and then when we mouse up, that's when the click actually triggers, when you click up. And we've got a few others as well. Okay, so those are the events. They come with Create.js, those events. Now Zim has events as well on things like the dial, for instance. If we scroll down, a dial dispatches a change event when the dial changes value. So many of these, such as the tabs, the pad, the color picker, those all dispatch change events. The slider and the stepper change events as well. And other things in here will dispatch different types of events. You just read about them in the documentation. Okay. The frame's got a couple neat ones. Let's just go take a look at the frame. Here's Zim frame. And this is our outer frame, and its events are, it's got a ready event, which we've seen when the stage is made. A progress event when an asset, if you're loading an asset, it can give you the fact that it's progressing. And an asset loads is if you're loading an array of assets, a bunch of assets, each one will trigger an asset load, and you can find out which one triggered. A complete event, if all your assets are done, it gives a complete event. There's an error. Resize. So when you resize your window, you can scale things anew based on your scale, especially in the full screen mode, full mode. And orientation handy for mobile, although I often just check the resize. Okay, that's documentation on the types of events we can do. Now there's a couple things, important things that we can do with events. One thing is we can make the event only run once. So in this case, well, what you might want to do is we don't really need a mouse out event unless you have a mouse over event. So sometimes if we're the most efficient, we'll take that and we'll stick it right in there. And we say, when we mouse over, we'll change the color, but at that point, we'll add the mouse out event. Now, if you just left it like this, every time we mouse over, it would add that event. Now, that starts adding up. That actually will take up memory and can easily cause memory leak. Okay, adding on because it's changing the color each time we mouse out. For every mouse out event you add, it keeps on doing that. So if you roll over a button 20 times, all of a sudden you got 20 times you're setting it to black every time you roll off it. Okay, but we could say please only run that one once, and the way we do that is we go comma. The null is whether it bubbles or not, and that's the third parameter, whether it bubbles or not, and that's sort of advanced. Let's change this one to true. The fourth parameter, we say only run once, and that would prevent us from doing that. However, it's not very visual for me to show you that. I suppose I could zog it. So let's put it on here so we can see what happens. So this is the mouse over. We'll make the mouse over only run once for some reason. And we set that to true, not try, true. Okay, so you see that, the fourth parameter. So if I save this one up and come back here and refresh and roll over, there it is red, so that worked. And now I roll over it again. That rollover was assigned, but only ran the once. And that can be handy if, say, you want to start a game only when the user rolls their mouse into here. That's a stage mouse move event, stage.on stage mouse move event. And you can run it only once. So as soon as it moves in here, anywhere, as soon as it moves, you can start your game. And that game would start only once if you make that event trigger only once. So we'll just take that off. The other thing you can do is you can remove an event. So that did remove an event only once, but sometimes you might want to run it many times and only remove the event if you're disabling a button or something. Now, buttons in Zim have a disabled or an enabled property that you can set at any time, and that, in a sense, is just going to remove the listeners that are inside the button. But let's show you how you can do that yourselves. In theory, you just take the event, so a click here, and you turn the on to an off. Now that works sometimes, and I'm not sure why at other times it doesn't work. And this is such a dangerous thing. You definitely want to, if you're going to turn your event off, you want to know that that is going to turn off. So I found that this technique works better. Var, call it anything you want. How about click event? Click event is equal to. So what we're doing is we're assigning the results of this on method. We're assigning the results to a click event. And this was made to actually work this way. So not everything works this way, but the on method does. And then we can say circle.off, whatever we've assigned that to. And that makes sure that works. This technique is used when you see how we've got an anonymous function. To be able to remove an anonymous function, we would have to assign this var roll event, or is this roll out or mouse out? Mouse, well, we'll just call it out event is equal to. Okay, now later on I could remove that because I've provided our variable name for that. Okay, otherwise you see how if you've got an anonymous function here as a second parameter, you can't put the anonymous function naturally inside there. So, or inside of the off. Okay, I'm not sure if you got that. That's a little bit confusing. But just to know, to remove the event, this is how you do it. Assign it to a variable, the on part, assign it to a variable, and then say the same thing, but when you click off, we're going to remove that click event like so. So now our click event won't work because we've made it work, but then we said turn it off. Now, of course, that would be kind of silly to do. Let's try it. Click, 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 click. So it's not clicking. Okay. And we can turn it back on again later if we want. So imagine we've turned it off because we're disabling something or if their score is not high enough. And then we can turn it back on again later, like so, on. Now we can use that same click event to turn it back on. We refresh here. And now we've turned it off and on, and poof, there it works. So that's how you can either run an event only once or indeed remove an event completely. Okay. We'll just take those away though for now. Now the last thing, well, second last thing, how about a key event? Let's show you a key event. So we can say window dot add event listener. Now unfortunately we have to drop back to the window and use the full add event listener, which by the way doesn't have that run only once. So that was something that was added by CreateJS for the on method. So we drop back. CreateJS didn't wrap the key event, and I suppose there was maybe nothing to do with the key event, so they just left it. And key down, for instance, and we can run an anonymous function or a function. So when the key is down, it'll call this function right here. Okay. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, a very important thing, is we can collect what's called an event object. And I usually use the letter E, not the E, there it is. Okay, so I'll collect that event object in just a simple E. You can also use OBJ for event object or spell it right out, event object. Don't use the word event though, OBJ. because event's a keyword. Anyway, E is just fine. And this object stores extra information that we might want to use about the event. So for instance, it gives us the key code. So we can zog e.key code. Right? So that's the event object, and we're asking what is the key code? Because in this case, JavaScript is giving us extra information about that event object, like what key was pressed. And we received that as a single parameter in the function call. Okay, let's see what happens when we zog the key code here. Go in here, refresh, and F12 to see the console. Already that was probably the F12, 1, 2, 3. I hit the arrow left. No, click in here, hit the arrow left, 37. 38 is up, 39 is to the right, 40 is down. A space bar is 32. Pew, 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 pew. Many space bars. The P key, if we wanted to print, is 80, that type of thing. So if we wanted to shoot something with the space bar inside our code, we would say if e.keycode double equals, was it 30, then shoot, or do whatever. If we want to turn right, if e.keycode double equals, whichever right was 38 or something, then we do this. Okay, if you want to know what the key codes are, just zog them and you can find them that way. So that's the event object, but where the event object is really cool is with things like click events, when you combine them with a container. Okay, because watch this. So there's the circle.onMouseOut. Where's the circle.click? Here it is, calling vanish. So in the vanish, we're going to collect, same deal here. We're going to collect the event object. So circle.onClick, call vanish, and then vanish is the thing that will receive the event object. Here, we were calling an anonymous function right there, and we put that E right in there. But that's okay. We're calling vanish. Vanish is what's going to receive the event object. And now we can say stage.removeChild e.target. So e.target, the target property of the event object, is whatever object caused the event to happen. In this case, because we're clicking on the circle, I won't bother assigning this to a click event. I think I can take that away. Because we're clicking on the circle, it will be the circle that gets removed. Okay, let's save this up and see if it still works. Excuse me. Refresh here, click, circle gets removed. Okay, if you don't believe me, let's comment that out and just test this. Refresh, click, circle did not get removed. But if we bring that back, stage.removeChild e.target. Now you might be going, well, why didn't we just use circle? Now here's the neat thing. If we put a bunch of objects, say 100 monsters, inside a container, say holder or monsters, then we can put one event, monsters.onClick, and vanish, say. And then in our click event, we can say monsters.removeChild e.target. And what happens there is just with this one event, any of the monsters that are clicked on, that is what actually will be removed, the monster that was clicked on. Okay, not the whole bunch of monsters, but the individual monster. And you see how that is terribly efficient. Oh, it's just wonderful. Well, let's try it. Why not? Quickly. We will make a container, var holder, we'll call it. Holder is equal to a new zim.container. And then we will say circle dot, well, we'll go holder dot add child circle. So we're putting the circle in the container. Let's make another circle. Var c is equal to a new zim dot circle. And we'll make this one, I don't know, 50, comma, and we'll give it a color. That's its radius, and a color of pink, purple, purple, semicolon, like so. We want to put a pointer on it, c dot cursor Well, actually, we could put the cursor on the holder. That makes it even easier. Holder dot cursor equals pointer. So that way everything in the holder will get a pointer when it's rolled over. There's our C. We'll add this to the holder. So holder dot add child, capital C, C. And let's move it over a little bit. So that would be C dot X is equal to 100. Okay, now let's see, what have we done? We've added the second circle to the holder. We've added the first circle to the holder, but we didn't put the circle on the stage, or the holder on the stage. So holder dot center on the stage. Now we have a holder on the stage with two circles in it. What else is happening? Well, just quickly, let's see that. Refresh. That didn't quite turn out how I expected. Purple holder way up there. I think I must have done something wrong. Let's see. Holder.add child circle. Holder.add child C. We moved C's.x to 100. Oh, we had the circle centered in the first place. So let's just not center the circle on the stage. And that gave it a strange X. So we save this and refresh here. There, that's a little bit better. Note that both are getting the pointer. This one still has a rollover on it. So both those circles are in there, a little bit crammed together. How about 150? So we'll move it over 150. Both are on the stage. Now, here is the fun part. Instead of adding the vanish event, I'll just move this down. I'm just going to move this stuff down to underneath here. Not that it matters too much. We would have had to make the holder at least. Instead of putting the event, the click event, on the specific circle, we'll put the click event on the holder and call vanish. Now, we receive which one then, or the event object comes in, and then we can use e.target will tell us which circle was clicked on. So we don't remove it from the stage because the circles are no longer in the stage, the circles are in the holder. So we say holder.remove child, whichever one was clicked on. And now with just this one event call, and we can remove, up to 2 or more if we had more of these things. So I refresh here, and you ready? Click, gone. Click, gone. Isn't that neat and efficient? So we had 100 monsters. We could just click on them all and remove all those monsters with just that one little call using e.target. Now, along with e.target, one more new thing is e.current target, sort of a strange name. e.current target. And what that does is that tells us what the event was placed upon. What was it put on? So that's going to be holder in this case. So we, in this case, would not want to remove holder from holder, so we would say stage.remove child e.current target. There we go, we click and now the whole thing goes. Okay, so that's the difference between e.current target is always the specific one that the event's put on, and e.target is probably the more useful one. That is whatever caused the event. All right. Now, if you have a bunch of objects in a container and some you want to be able to trigger the event and others you don't, you can say something like c.mouse enabled equals false. So this circle C, mouse enabled false, and if I save that and refresh, I think it was the second one there, click, it doesn't go away, click, that one goes away, this one won't because it's been mouse enabled false. Just watch this. If this object has mouse children, then you need to also set c.mouse children equals false, because the mouse children themselves, they would still be mouse enabled. Okay, but if you say, hey, I don't want to have any children, then this would handle it. Luckily, circles rectangles and triangles, those are Zim containers, but they automatically have mouse children false, so they act as if they're just one thing. Wow, that is a lot, but events are important. I'm glad you stuck with it through here. Events, really, they make programming work. They help you apply the interactivity. So we're making interactive media, and indeed, events are crucial for interactivity, as you can see there. Yeah, welcome. And if you want, at zimjs.com, there's a whole bunch more. This was the end of the What Is Basic series. If you want to figure out how to use all these basic commands and properties that we've been going over, then have a look at the Zim captures and also the Zim bits. And we'll also deal with more basics, or what is, sorry, not basics, what is, in the middle and in the advanced tutorials. I'm Inventor Dan Zen. Have a great day.